Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're giving your heart to someone, only to wonder if they even realize what they have? You show up, you care, you make time, you're supportive, loyal, available, and still, you're not his priority. You're not the one he clears his schedule for. You're not the one he brags about, plans with, or puts first. You feel it in your gut. Something's off. He says he likes you, but his actions don't match it. He's inconsistent, hot and cold, and somehow you're always the one overthinking while he's out living his life. Sound familiar? Here's the hard truth. If you're not his first priority, it's not because you're not good enough. It's because you've been playing the role of someone who's always available, always waiting, always proving, instead of being the woman who naturally commands respect and attention. And no, this isn't about games. This is about energy, boundaries, and self-worth. The kind that doesn't chase, because it attracts. In this video, I'm going to show you the 6 exact shifts you need to make to go from overlooked to unforgettable. From one of many, to the one he never stops thinking about. So if you're ready to stop being an option, and start being the standard, keep watching. Let's begin. Let's get real. If you're always the one starting the conversation, making the plans, sending the just checking in texts, that's a sign. A loud one. You might tell yourself you're just being thoughtful, or that you're good at communication. But here's what's really happening. You're carrying the connection on your own. And here's the problem with that. When you initiate all the time, you're setting the tone that you're more invested than he is. You're removing the natural tension, the healthy space, the curiosity that keeps relationships exciting and mutually engaging. Men, especially masculine energy men, are wired to pursue what they value. If he's not taking that initiative, not even occasionally, it doesn't mean he's shy. It doesn't mean he's busy. It means he's not feeling the need to pursue, because he doesn't feel like he has to. You've already shown up so much, he doesn't have to. Now let me be clear, initiating sometimes is not the issue. Relationships are a two-way street. But when it becomes a pattern, when you notice that he only responds, never initiates, what you're really doing is training him to expect your effort without giving any of his. That's not connection. That's emotional labor disguised as trying. And I know it's hard, because when you really like someone, it feels almost unnatural to hold back. But here's the truth that changed my life. If your presence doesn't inspire action, your absence won't either. You can't force someone to care by showing up harder. You can't teach them to prioritize you by proving how available you are. What you can do is create space. Pull back with grace. Let the silence speak. Let his effort, or lack of it, tell you everything. The woman who knows her value doesn't beg for attention. She observes, she adjusts, and most importantly, she lets those who don't prioritize her lose access to her. Because here's the secret. The less you initiate, the clearer his intentions become. Let's move on to the next shift. Let's talk about pulling back. And no, I'm not talking about ghosting, silent treatments, or trying to make him miss you by disappearing completely. That's not empowered behavior. That's reactionary, and it comes from pain. What I'm talking about is pulling back from a place of clarity, not punishment. You're not punishing him for not showing up. You're simply not overextending yourself anymore. Pulling back the right way means you stop pouring energy into a situation that isn't feeding you back. It means you stop reaching out first. You stop rearranging your day to make yourself more available. You stop texting to check in, just to make sure he still cares. And guess what? That doesn't make you cold. It makes you centered. The key is your intention. You're not doing it to manipulate his response. You're doing it to observe the truth of the connection without your effort clouding it. Because when you're constantly chasing, you can't see clearly. You're too busy managing both sides of the relationship. So instead, you step back with grace. You let the silence breathe. You create space for his energy to come forward, or not. And in that space, you watch. Does he notice your absence? Does he initiate? Does he match your effort? Or does he fade? Either answer is information. Either answer brings you closer to the truth. And honestly, the truth is a gift. It either confirms his interest or reveals his indifference. Both are valuable. But you'll never know if you keep filling in the silence for him. Pulling back is also a reset. It gives you time to reconnect with yourself, your worth, your standards, your peace. You're not anxiously waiting. You're observing, grounding, and reminding yourself that you are not here to prove your value. You are here to protect it. Remember, true feminine energy doesn't chase. It leans back. It receives. It lets what's meant for it reveal itself effortlessly. So no, you're not playing games. You're simply refusing to be on the court alone. Now that you know how to pull back with intention, let's talk about what happens when you do it right and raise your standards without scaring him off. There's this fear a lot of women carry that if they raise their standards, speak up about their needs, or stop settling for breadcrumbs, they'll come off as too much, that they'll scare him away. That being honest about what they want will make them look needy or high maintenance. But here's the truth. Most people won't tell you. You will never scare away the right man by having standards. You will only filter out the ones who were never going to meet them in the first place. Having standards isn't about being demanding or entitled. It's about being crystal clear on what you will and won't accept. Not from a place of ego, but from a place of deep self-respect. When you raise your standards, you stop entertaining half-effort. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You no longer make excuses for someone who shows up when it's convenient, but disappears when things require real commitment. You stop shrinking yourself just to keep someone interested. And the shift is powerful, not just in how others treat you, but in how you see yourself. Now, some women worry that raising their standards means putting up walls, becoming guarded, or rejecting everyone who doesn't meet some impossible checklist. But that's not what we're doing here. This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. The right standard is not about asking him to be a millionaire, a mind reader, or a prince. It's about requiring emotional availability, consistency, respect, and clear communication, the foundations of any healthy connection. And if that scares someone off, good, let it. Because your standards are not the problem. Their inability or unwillingness to meet them is. And here's the thing. When you communicate your standards from a place of calm confidence, without anger or desperation, you actually become more attractive. Why? Because it signals that you're not operating from lack. You're not begging to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself, and now you're simply seeing who aligns with that version of you. There's nothing more magnetic than a woman who knows what she wants and isn't afraid to walk away if it's not there. Raising your standards also isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. It shows up in how you allow people to speak to you, how you enforce boundaries, how you choose partners, friends, conversations, even environments. And the beautiful part, when you raise your standards, you stop chasing potential. You stop trying to fix or prove or earn love. You realize love doesn't have to be hard when it's healthy. So no, you're not pushing him away by raising your standards. You're just stepping into a higher frequency, and anyone who's not ready to rise with you naturally falls off. And that's exactly how it should be. Now let's talk about something just as powerful, the kind of energy that makes you stand out without even saying a word. One of the most misunderstood forms of power, especially in today's world, is feminine energy. We've been told that to be taken seriously, to be respected, to be chosen, we have to be tougher, sharper, less emotional, more low maintenance. And in the process, a lot of women start suppressing the very essence that makes them magnetic. But the truth is, your femininity isn't a weakness. It's a superpower. It's not about how you dress, or being quiet, or playing helpless. It's about embracing the softness, the intuition, the emotional intelligence, the depth that naturally draws people in. Because here's the thing. In a world full of women trying to compete, prove, impress, and chase, the woman who's rooted in her femininity stands out without trying. She doesn't need to constantly talk about what she brings to the table. Her energy is the table. She doesn't beg to be chosen, because she's already chosen herself. She walks into a room, or into a conversation, with ease and grace, not urgency or pressure. She allows herself to feel, to receive, to trust, to let go of control, not because she's weak, but because she knows her power isn't in chasing, it's in attracting. And here's the shift that changes everything. When you own your femininity, you stop leading with anxiety and start leading with presence. You speak calmly, you hold eye contact, You smile because you're happy, not because you're trying to keep someone interested. You express your truth without trying to manipulate a reaction. You let silence be part of the conversation. You let him come to you. A woman in her feminine energy isn't passive, she's receptive. And that's a crucial difference. She's not waiting around, doing nothing. She's living fully, nurturing herself, building her world, and creating space for a man to step into it. When you try to be everything, do everything, and control everything in a relationship, you leave no room for polarity. You become the planner, the initiator, the fixer, and he either steps back or gets comfortable with you doing all the emotional heavy lifting. But when you lean into your feminine, you create a natural balance. He feels invited to lead, to step up, to protect, to pursue, not because you need him, but because you're willing to receive. You don't have to compete to stand out. You just have to return to your essence. And the more you own it, unapologetically, the more you'll notice that the right kind of man doesn't just notice you, he's drawn to you. Let's talk now about what takes this to the next level: mystery, emotional self-control, and the art of not giving everything away too soon. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who doesn't reveal everything about herself right away, who doesn't overshare, over-explain, or overreact. Not because she's hiding anything, but because she's mastered the art of mystery and emotional self-control. And this isn't about being cold or distant, it's about being intentional with your presence and your energy. Let's start with mystery. Mystery is what keeps someone intrigued. It's what sparks curiosity and emotional investment. When you give too much too soon, your whole life story, your deepest wounds, your endless availability, it can feel like there's nothing left to discover. And without discovery, there's no pursuit. Mystery is not about pretending. It's about pacing. It's about knowing that your soul is not something to be handed over within 3 dates, or 3 texts, or 3 hours of late-night conversation. You don't owe instant access to your world. Let people earn deeper layers of you over time. And here's the twist. Mystery isn't just about what you say, it's about what you don't react to. That brings us to emotional control. So many women lose their power in relationships by letting their emotions run the show. The overthinking, the constant analyzing, the impulsive texts, the fear-based reactions when he pulls back, the need to explain yourself or fix things the second there's tension. But true confidence, the kind that makes people lean in, comes from the ability to respond instead of react, to sit in the discomfort without needing to escape it, to observe your feelings without becoming consumed by them. Because here's the truth, not everything needs an immediate reaction. Silence can be just as powerful as words. Distance can be just as meaningful as closeness. And your ability to stay calm when everything in you wants to panic. That's next level self-mastery. You don't have to perform. You don't have to prove. You don't have to emotionally unravel just to show someone you care. The woman who holds her emotional ground, even when things feel uncertain, shows that she knows her worth. She's not addicted to reassurance because her validation doesn't live in someone else's hands. She becomes a mystery not because she's closed off, but because she's selective. She opens up slowly. She holds her power quietly. And she creates a dynamic where a man is drawn to understand her, not because she demands it, but because she invites it. Remember, mystery invites curiosity. Emotional control builds trust. When you combine both, you become unforgettable. Not because you gave all of yourself away, but because you knew your value was never up for negotiation. Next, let's go even deeper. What happens when you stop competing with other women and start owning your lane? Let's get something straight. You were never meant to compete. Not for a man. Not for attention. Not for love. The moment you start viewing other women as threats, you automatically lower your own power. You step out of alignment and into lack, into comparison, insecurity, and desperation. And nothing kills your natural magnetism faster than acting like you're in a race to be chosen. But here's the truth. You need to remember. You don't compete when you know your lane. You don't chase when you know your value. And you sure as hell don't shrink yourself just to make someone else look bigger. The women you compare yourself to, they have their own magic, their own path, their own timing. What makes them beautiful doesn't take anything away from you. There is no shortage of love, admiration, or success in this world. unless you've convinced yourself there is. And if a man is making you feel like you're in competition, like you're one of many, like you need to win his attention or prove your worth, that's not love, that's a performance. You're not auditioning for the role of girlfriend. You're not a contestant in someone else's love story. You are the prize. You are the standard. And when you live that truth, not just say it, but actually believe and embody it, the right man doesn't see you as one of many. He sees you as the one. Real feminine power isn't loud. It doesn't need to scream, compare, or fight for attention. It just is. It walks into a room and changes the energy. It doesn't look around to see who else is there. It's too busy being rooted in confidence, peace, and self-worth. And when you stop competing, you also stop judging. You stop tearing other women down. You start celebrating their wins instead of fearing them. Because empowered women don't see each other as threats. They see each other as mirrors. And sometimes what you admire in someone else is just a reflection of what's already inside you, waiting to be owned. So stop asking yourself, why him? Start asking, why me? Why am I giving energy to someone who doesn't reflect the version of myself I'm becoming? You don't need to be louder than the other women. You just need to be louder in your standards. You don't need to prove you're better. You just need to know that you're enough. And once you stop competing, you start elevating. And that's when everything changes. Now let's talk about energy. The kind of energy that draws the right people in and makes the wrong ones naturally fall away. It's time to understand the difference between magnetic energy and needy energy. There's a type of woman who walks into a room and people naturally notice her. Not because she's the loudest, not because she's trying the hardest, but because her energy speaks before she does. That's magnetic energy. It's not about looks or charm, it's about presence. And then there's a different kind of energy, one that chases, clings, overextends, and constantly needs reassurance. That's needy energy. And even though it's coming from a place of wanting love, it often ends up pushing love away. So what's the difference? Magnetic energy says, I know my worth, I don't need you to validate me, but I welcome connection that's real and mutual. Needy energy says, please choose me, please show me I'm enough. I don't feel safe without your constant attention. One is rooted in self-trust, but the other is rooted in self-doubt. And here's the thing, you don't need to be perfect to be magnetic. You just need to be whole. Whole in your identity, whole in your peace, whole in your ability to sit with uncertainty without unraveling. When your energy is magnetic, you don't have to force conversations, initiate everything, or constantly ask where things are going. You hold space. You let people come to you. You're not passive, you're present. And presence is powerful. On the other hand, needy energy is always one step ahead of the moment. Overthinking, overanalyzing, overfunctioning. It's constantly looking for signs. Did he text back fast enough? Did I say too much? Is he pulling away? And all that fear-based energy gets felt. It doesn't inspire closeness. It triggers retreat. Magnetic women don't beg. They don't chase. They don't prove. They attract. They observe. They allow. It's not arrogance. It's self-awareness. They know what they bring. They don't make people guess. But they don't hand everything over in desperation either. They stay open, but discerning. And here's what most people miss. You can have needs and still not be needy. You're allowed to want connection, reassurance, affection. That's human. But when your identity depends on receiving it, that's when it becomes a problem. Because now you're looking for someone else to regulate your emotions instead of doing the inner work yourself. So if you want to be magnetic, stop trying to be perfect. Start being grounded. Be clear on who you are. Be at peace with your own company. Let your silence be as powerful as your words. And always remember, the most irresistible energy in the world is someone who doesn't need love to feel complete, but still believes they deserve it fully. Now let's shift into action. How do you actually shift his perception of you from casual to committed, from unsure to certain? Let's get into it. Sometimes you don't need to walk away from a relationship. You just need to shift the energy you bring into it. Because here's the truth. Most people overlook you train people how to treat you by what you tolerate and how you show up. If he's been treating you like an option, if the connection feels one-sided, if you've been stuck in a situationship where things never seem to move forward, You don't have to scream, argue, or force your worth into the conversation. You just need to shift how you carry yourself, and everything around you begins to respond differently. The shift starts with boundaries, not ultimatums, not threats, just clear, calm lines rooted in self-respect. Stop over-explaining. Stop over-justifying. You don't have to beg someone to see your value. You just have to stop handing it away for free. When you stop doing the most for someone who's doing the bare minimum, they notice. When you stop making yourself overly available, they notice. When you stop filling in all the effort, initiating every conversation, chasing emotional scraps, they notice. And more importantly, you notice. You notice how much energy you are giving without receiving. You notice how tired you feel when you're in a constant state of proving. You notice that your peace increases the moment you stop trying to control the outcome. The shift also means speaking differently. From now on, don't say, "I just want to know where this is going." Instead say, "I'm looking for something intentional. If we're not aligned on that, I respect it. But I'm not going to stay in something that doesn't reflect what I want." Do you see the difference? One sounds like fear. The other sounds like self-respect. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to beg for clarity. You just have to be so grounded in what you're available for that confusion becomes your answer. And this is where the perception shift happens. The moment you stop chasing, questioning, doubting, and start showing up like someone who knows their value, his energy will either rise to meet yours or fade away. Either way, you win, because now you're leading the dynamic from alignment, not anxiety. A man's perception of you changes the moment you change how you perceive yourself. So ask yourself, are you showing up like the woman he has to figure out, or the woman he has to level up to keep? You don't need to convince anyone to value you. You just need to become unavailable to anything less. Now let's wrap this up with real talk. How to put all of this into practice and become permanently the woman who's always the priority, never the second option. All right, we're almost at the finish line, but these final tips, they're the secret sauce that turns everything you've learned into real lasting change. First things first, becoming his number one priority isn't about bending over backwards or trying to fit into someone else's idea of what you should be. It's about standing tall in your own worth and living in a way that naturally draws him in, not because you need him to, but because you respect yourself too much to settle for less. Here's the reality: when you show up fully as yourself, with your boundaries, your confidence, and your clear standards, you're setting the tone for how he needs to show up. You become a living example of what a healthy, balanced, and fulfilling connection looks like, and trust me, men feel that energy. One of the biggest mistakes women make is trying to control his feelings or actions. Instead, focus on controlling your energy. How you feel about yourself and your life is magnetic. It ripples outward and creates an irresistible pull. When you're grounded, calm, and confident, you're not desperate for his attention. You're inviting him into your world. Also, remember to keep your life rich and full outside of the relationship. Pursue your passions, nurture your friendships, and invest in your personal growth. When you're busy building a life that lights you up, you're automatically more attractive, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're living with purpose. Another key tip: communicate clearly and assertively. If something isn't working for you, say it. If you want more effort, ask for it. No need to play guessing games or read between the lines. Real connection thrives on honesty and respect, and by being upfront, you're inviting him to step into a deeper level of commitment. It's also crucial to practice patience with yourself and with him. Change doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes the biggest transformation is internal. You may have to remind yourself daily that you are worthy of being his priority, even if the evidence hasn't caught up yet. Confidence is a practice, not a switch. Lastly, don't settle for less than you deserve. If you've communicated your standards and he's not willing to meet them, it's okay to walk away. Prioritizing yourself is the ultimate power move. It sends a clear message: you're not here to be anyone's backup plan or option B. To wrap it all up, becoming his first priority is less about tactics and more about embodying your worth. It's about living from a place of self-love, setting boundaries without apology, and knowing that the right man will not only respect you but cherish you. So stand in your power, trust your journey, and remember, you are more than enough, just as you are. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. Your priority is you, always.